Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American Masterminds podcast.
Each episode, we invite extraordinary guests who are masters of their craft. They're innovators, entrepreneurs, and of course, motorcycle enthusiasts who have made their mark in the world.
They share their stories, insights, and hard-earned wisdom, giving you a front row seat to the strategies and experiences that shape their successes.
So sit back, grab a drink, and get ready for an exhilarating ride as we dive deep into the minds of these exceptional individuals.
Along the way, we'll uncover powerful strategies, gain fresh perspectives, and explore the limitless possibilities of what it takes to be an American mastermind. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American Masterminds podcast. I'm your host tonight, Topher Sheeler. We have a very interesting night for you here this evening. We have brother Rob Adams on with us, and he just got back from a 10-day silent retreat, and he is going to tell us this sounds like the hardest thing I have ever heard of anybody attempting to do. I can't wait to hear all the stories. I have purposely not heard any of them so that we can do this on this podcast. So buckle up. Rob's going to drop us some knowledge, but first, let's hear from our sponsor, Intervive.
Intervive.
And a what?
Vive. Intervive.
What's it mean?
It means the original life, and it all begins with clean
water. What do they do?
Well, let me show you.
Oh, Intervive.
Yeah, you got it. You can check us out at intervive.com.
Rob,
Hey,
welcome back, man.
it's good to be here. I love this podcast. 10 days.
10 days of no talking, no looking at anybody,
Can't make eye contact.
no eye contact, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
What in the world were you thinking?
That's a great question. My intention stepping into it, if that's what you're asking, is I really wanted to check in and deep dive into the things I'm thinking about. I'm sick of thinking about the things I'm thinking about. I'm ready for a shift in my perspective. I feel as though I've come pretty far in my life. I've been pretty successful carrying and doing it with the tools that I have, and I'm ready for new tools. I'm ready to go to new levels. In order to do that, I feel like there has to be new material, new lessons learned. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity.
So how did this come up? What led to getting onto this retreat at all?
Oh, I read a book called 10% Happier, which I recommend. It's a great book. It is a media guy. He's an anchor man, and he talks about how his anxiety became too much. His internal dialogue was too loud and all of these different things. And he stressed out and had a meltdown on national television.
Oh,
yeah. And he decided to go to this, get into meditation. He was kind of almost like a interviewer. He'd go interview like gurus and the head of a Christian church and all these different things. And he'd kind of go in and kind of debunk them, if like that priest was caught, that preacher was caught chasing after a prostitution or something like that. He would go and interview them and like kind of break it down. So he was kind of into debunking these mystical experiences. And so it was an interesting read, but he goes on this 10-day silent retreat and he talks about his experience and then how it shifted his entire thinking about meditation, about his ability to like stay calm, to process. And I thought it was pretty interesting. And he's like, I'm not going there to become enlightened. I'm going there to become 10% happier. And I thought, I can get behind 10% happier. Who doesn't want to be 10% happier? Yeah. I finished this book and my buddy Rob Schuler calls me up and he's like, hey dude, I found this 10-day silent retreat. And I hadn't talked to him about this at all.
Really?
Yeah. So this was kind of out of the blue. And he's like, do you want to go on this? And I'm like, this is weird timing, but yeah, I'm in. And so I signed up and you have to do an application. They only they'll review your application and then they accept you in and they don't take payment until the end. And so you're there on their free will. You're there as a pauper, is kind of like they want you to be like a monk for 10 days where you're living on their charity. You haven't paid for any food. You haven't paid for the bed. You haven't paid for the water, nothing.
Wow.
So it's completely donation based.
Really? Okay. Yeah. So why don't you dive in? What are the rules?
So no eye contact, no talking, no music, no writing, no reading. No, if you have any other practices, if you're doing like Wim Hof breathing, no more Wim Hof breathing, no yoga, no anything outside of just this practice
Hold on. So they're actually monitoring whether or not you're breathing.
Yeah, they for sure are monitoring. Sorry.
And this is, ladies and gentlemen, is why we don't allow phones on the podcast.
It's an alarm to be more mindful. So anyway, yeah, so the rules are pretty strict and they lay them out. The men and women are separated on the campus. You don't cross paths with the women. They have their side of the campus. You have your side. They have their side of the meditation hall. You have your side. There's 3.5 hours of mandatory meditation, and then the rest is voluntary. You can go on a walk on a path, but for those 3 hours, you have to be in the group meditation. There's an hour and 15 or an hour and 30 minutes of like counseling or training that happens at the end of the day. Every day, which was wildly accurate. For example, like on the third day, I was going through specifically what happened on the third day. And at the end of the day, the guy was like, and today, this is what you experienced. This is what you went through. They've done so many of these that I realized that I'm not unique. My crisis, the crisis that I was going through that day, the breakdown of my emotions and feeling my feelings is what everybody goes through every time. This is standard practice. We're not unique in this regard. We all have the same like shelf life when it comes to silence and no eye contact and in this practice. And they've done thousands of them. And so they know what people are doing.
Well, it's kind of like sleep deprivation, right?
Yeah.
There is an actual pattern to how this
Breaks
actually
down.
goes.
Yeah. It's exactly like that. And they know exactly what they're doing. And I was wildly impressed because the training, I'm like, oh my God, here we go. This guy had a thick accent and I'm going to have to listen to him for a half an hour. In fact, I subtitled the whole thing. And I was just like, this is for 10 days. I'm going to have to do this. But then at the end of the day, he was so accurate that I was just like, damn, I need to pay attention. And then the second day when I thought I was like starting to kind of come loose, like I was losing my mind, he was right on the money. He was like, this is where your head was at and this is what you were doing. The thing that I learned about this, and it's called Vipassana meditation. There's different practices of meditation. This is very Buddhist.
Okay.
This style. Meditating usually is where you kind of sit and kind of clear your mind, think about butterflies, think about rainbows and unicorns. That is not what meditation is when it comes to this. The practice is focusing on specific stimulations or feelings that you have just from your nostrils. So you breathe for 3.5 days. I focused on how it felt for the air to go into my nose and out of my nose and my upper lip. I only focused on this spot, in, out for 3.5 days.
Oh my God.
Of sitting. So the other thing is if you do all the meditation time, your alone meditation time that's scheduled, you're meditating, sitting in meditation and prayer for about 11 hours a day.
Holy cow. I feel obligated to let the listeners know about you a little bit more. Okay. Rob is a serial, you're a big talker. You're a big mover. You don't, but your attention span isn't all that great. You got to move and keep going. We had to remove all the wheels off all the chairs in the podcast studio to keep you from shifting back and forth. Like this had to be one of the hardest things for you to sit still, not talk, no music, no podcast, no journaling.
Yeah, no noise.
Bring us into this. Like, what was it? What was that like?
So the first day, as soon as the guy started talking, he had his accent and he would speak in a way where I'm going to give you an example. And of course, this isn't Farsi at all, but he would say, and then like he would make these noises that were so incredibly foreign to me that I did not know. Like I looked back at the guy that I rode up with, Rob, and I just was like, 10 days, like what? And so there was like a lot of the stimulation that we were receiving, which was significantly less than cell phones, radio, all the things that we have. It was so different and foreign that you really are completely in a new place. And so there's nothing to distract you. Like part of the meditation, he would be talking in Farsi, blessing us in his language, which I thought was ridiculous, to be honest with you, because if I don't know what you're saying, it might as well be a train going by blowing its horn. It's just another distraction.
Sure.
So I actually there's a teacher, his name was John, and a monk. So those were the only two people that I could actually talk to. And I asked him, like, I'm only understanding about 40% of what this guy's talking about. He's like, yeah, that's the point. Like your mind is supposed to listen without an expectation. So
wow.
I'm like, whatever. Like that makes zero sense to me. Like listen without an expectation. But that's what you do. You sit there, and as you feel the sensation of the air going in and out of your nose, your brain just runs away. Imagine your brain is like a 5-year-old little person, and you're telling that little person, I need you to sit here and be quiet. Shh. And your brain is a good 5-year-old. My brain was a good 5-year-old. Okay.
For the first 30 minutes?
For 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Because what you said about me is absolutely true. Off my brain went. Okay, come back. Sit just right here. Sit right here. Shh, sit right here. Off it went. Over and over again. And I would forget that I was focusing on just this. I'd forget, and then I'd come back, and I'd forget, and I'd come back. I was having $1 million business ideas. I was thinking about how I could change my nonprofit for good, and how I could this and that, and who I need. Oh, I need to tell him that. I need to talk to Topher. I need to do these different things over and oh no, focus, come back, and then away I'd go again. And that's what I did all day, was like chasing this 5-year-old child around.
Wow.
On top of that, our bodies are really in charge of what's happening in our lives. Right now, if I feel hungry, I'm only thinking about one thing, and that's eating. My body's saying, eat, you need to eat, you need to eat. Fact of the matter is, I probably don't need to eat. I've eaten enough today. My caloric intake is tapped. I just finished one of those Fat Boy ice cream sandwiches. I don't need more food, but your body is in charge. It's running all the time, hungry, thirsty, tired, you name it. Our body is calling the shots, and we go along with it because we expect our body to go along with us. If I ask my body, for example, I was in the military, and the training in the military is that when you hit your maximum, when you are ready to tap out, you're only at 60%. You still have 40% left in you.
Oh, wow.
And so because of that training, I would actually check out of my body and just keep running, keep going, keep grinding and doing. And that's really served me in my life. But because of that, since I've been about 18 years old, I haven't really ever felt my body. I'm checked out. I could work in my yard and cut my hand and be bleeding and not know until I go in. Like, I just don't feel it.
Yeah.
And most of us are that way. I've talked to a lot of men, and they're like, yeah, I'll bang up my knuckle when I'm working and I'll be bleeding, and I just don't even know it until I like bleed on myself or something. So there's this whole level of unconsciousness that's happening in our lives that we don't even know about. Now, if I tell you that your brain is kind of going off in different directions, it's like, yeah, I know. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't really know until you sit with it for 3 days trying to focus on one thing. The goal of focusing on one thing is to train the mind to bring it back again and again and again and again, to raise awareness, to strengthen your muscle of focus, because we don't have it. We, again, are just like children where we want chicken nuggets. I want my chicken nuggets right now. And then before I get those nuggets and have even enjoyed them, I'm thinking about spaghetti. I want spaghetti now. And before I want that, give me my cell phone so I can play on my cell phone. We don't even appreciate what we do have long enough to like taste it. Where the Buddhists say that we're running as fast as we can to our deaths.
Wow.
I am always in a hurry to get things done. I rush and life's no fun. Thank you, Alabama.
Yep.
And that is the theme of my life. I'm always in a hurry. I wake up late. I jump out of bed. I don't know why I have to run to the kitchen and put together my pre-workout and run to the gym and work out and then run home and then. This is just who I am. This is what I've become. And the truth is because of this, I am never able to be present or conscious of how good it is right now to have a conversation with Topher. If I'm sitting here talking to you, normally the only thing that I'm thinking about is the other things that I need to get done today before I can go home. And then when I get home, I'm thinking about all the things I wish I would have done while I was at work.
Yeah.
I'm never 100% where I am.
Wow.
And so it's true. When I say these things out loud, everyone that I've told this story to, they're like, yeah, that's true. I feel that way all the time. But what can we do about it? A 10-day silent retreat. Is the reset that is necessary. So for the first 3 days, on the third day, I looked in the mirror. I was leaving my little room, and I shared a room with a dude named Zach from New York, and there was a curtain that went down the middle, and we kept it drawn most of the time. Sometimes we'd pull it back, but most of the time it was drawn, so I could just hear him over there breathing, farting and snoring and all the things that the person does, but never like I could look at him and be like, dude, are you struggling too? There was never that moment. I was isolated the whole time. The training hall was very subdued. My room was very subdued. The lights were very low everywhere except for outside, of course.
Sure.
And so it's just kind of like a dark, quiet, low stimulation environment. And I was walking out of my room on that third day, and I looked in the mirror, and I looked panicked. Like I could tell, I could see that this kid was like, what the F am I doing here? Some of the people that were there had been on other retreats, or they had meditated and sat in other events, and they were statues for a whole hour. The whole time I was there for 10 days, there's not 1 hour that I can remember that I sat still the whole time.
I firmly believe
Yeah,
that.
I would fidget.
Yeah.
And my body, like, when you're falling asleep and you have that jolt of like you were falling or something.
Yeah.
My body would do that while I was awake because my mind and body were conspiring against my will. Open rebellion against my will. My body would shake and it'd bring me out of I was just kind of dropping into that space of acceptance and flow. And my body would be like, no. And then I'd come back and then I'd have to go back in and then my brain would be thinking about marshmallows and cereal, whatever.
Did it ever get to a point where it was, and I kind of want to go back and we'll talk about each day, how this progressed, but was there ever a point where like you couldn't control your mind anymore?
Yeah. My mind was just like, screw you, buddy, I'm out. And I could not bring it in. Then there was other times that it was very compliant. Here's another thing I realized is that my compliance or my highest level of focus is before 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
I buy that.
So from 4 o'clock in the morning, because that's when you get up. You get up and you're sitting by 4:30 in the morning, and then you're going until all day long. There's breakfast at 6 o'clock, but you go down there and it's a bowl of oatmeal or Cheerios and a piece of fruit, very low calories. And then lunch was just vegetarian food because they're Buddhists. They don't harm anything except for plants. And so I lost 14 pounds during this 12 days. Like,
oh my gosh,
there's no dinner.
No dinner.
No dinner. They would have tea. You could go down and get some tea, but there was no food for dinner.
Wow. That's brutal.
So you're kind of fasting.
Yeah. On top of everything else.
And so I'm a little bit hangry. You know what I mean? And you know me, like,
oh no, you've got to eat. The big fella's got to eat.
The big guy's got to eat. Give the guy a sandwich. He's in a great mood.
Yeah.
I just need a PB&J. Man, I'm good. And I was dragging there and struggling for many reasons, but, what was the question you asked me?
Well, let's go back. Let's start with day one. Okay. So you get there, you get kind of checked in.
Everybody's jolly. You're seeing all these other guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're all kind of like, what's your purpose? What's your intention while you're here? Like, how's things going? And then they check you in, they state the rules, and then you go do your first meditation. And that's around 5 or 6 o'clock at night that you do your first meditation. You've found your room. They had people out sleeping in tents. They had like old junky RVs that people would just stay in. The RVs didn't run anymore, but the beds were still good.
Huh.
They had these like...
just kind of a conglomeration around of
everything.
Everybody's got a little spot here.
They were smart though that they gave like the good rooms to the old guys. So I got a pretty solid room. I feel good about it.
You're gonna use that senior citizen discount
anywhere I can. But there was these kids that were like, 29, 30 years old. They were sleeping on a cot out in a tent. And pretty rough,
Man.
But you are living like you're in poverty. Like there are no luxuries. There's no extras there at all. The first day we're checked in at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whenever the meditation was, then you commit to noble silence. You commit yourself to the teacher who's sitting at the front of the room, and you surrender yourself to them, and then you surrender yourself to Buddha.
Wow. And
so it's on. No talking, no eye contact, no music. They take your cell phone away. You have to give it to them. So you check it in.
I bet that's got to be kind of a ceremony in and of itself, taking the phones.
There was a moment of like, I thought, this is going to be nice. Like I have the illusion of control where I believe that the world will fall apart without me.
Yeah.
And so I was fighting with that. I wasn't really fighting with like, I got to check in all the time. I got to see what you had for dinner, because you're going to post it.
Yeah.
None of that. It was like, I'm excited for the break from social media. In fact, I probably have an addiction to social media. I did. And anyway, that was cool. But the afterward, like you check your phone in and you kind of have those like, oh boy,
I'm missing something.
Oh, I checked it in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I checked it in for like 2 days. I was checking. Oh boy. I haven't got a call yet from
whoever.
No crisis.
Yeah.
So you're checked in that first. And so that's the first day. Then the second day is full meditation. I was up early. I was excited, up early, showered, shaved, on my way, on my mat, ready to go. And that was such a long day because I had never sat that long. That's the very first time I've ever sat Indian style on the floor, no back support.
What?
For a long time. It takes a toll on your back almost immediately. Your knees hurt right away. Your ankles, your feet fall asleep. Like you're sitting there for a long time. Now, after the 1 hour of meditation of like statue time, you can get up and move around. They'll give you breaks. And if it's independent time, you can get up and move around all you want. You don't even have to be in there if you don't want to, but I was there. If I'm going to Disneyland,
Might as well ride the ride.
I'm going to ride the ride. And so I was there riding the ride, and man, I was doing my breath, brewing my breath, thinking about it, focusing. My mind was just, and that was the first time that it really occurred to me that my mind, I am not my thoughts. In fact, I am loosely related to this animal that's running around. It's a wild animal that is my mind that's throwing these ideas in my head, just distracting me, moving me forward. Crazy. That first day, they talk about how we are always in a hurry, that principle of always being in a hurry.
Yeah.
And that really struck home. So that was a big point. Like, I am nonstop in emergency mode. Like, I've got to slow down. They talk about it as an addiction.
Really?
Yeah. You're addicted to drama. You're addicted to this illusion of significance. They talk about two things that we, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, but they talk about that we are addicted to craving. I want ice cream. I want that Fat Boy ice cream sandwich. If I can't have it, I'm going to be miserable. So we create misery through our craving. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
We always want something. And then there's aversion. I'm running away from something. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I don't want to feel sad. I don't want to feel pain. So we're moving away from pain and towards aversion all the time. My running away from is really what has created the success of my life, because I'm fearful of being poor. I'm fearful of being unhappy and unsuccessful. And because of this fear, aversion of this pain that I felt way back when I was a kid, I'm running away all the time towards success, craving and aversion. Craving, and it's everything that we do.
You know, though, that's super interesting, because in my mind, the athlete mind coming out right now, in order to be in that hurry or go, I can outwork anybody and everybody, right? That takes like getting in shape for it.
Yeah.
Like, that's something I've been working towards my whole life, is that I can outwork whoever my competition is.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of wrestle with, yes, maybe that's not the best practice, but in the same time, how else do you get ahead in life?
You know, that is a great question. And I don't think that there's a good answer, but what I do know is balance is necessary. There isn't a point at which you're ever going to outperform everyone. And so really your goal is to outperform you yesterday, to improve a little bit every day, right?
Yeah.
To keep growing. And I think that's a realistic and sustainable goal. The goal of driving, being the best is an unsustainable goal that there gets to be a point in your life where really what I'm after, am I after being the best, or am I here to be happy? Like, what's more important to me? Do I want to continue to drive? Do I find happiness in the drive? Because if you do, great. But ultimately, there's no balance in that life. Balance is, your spiritual body, your physical body, your emotional body, all of your four bodies that you can put together, and you're only focusing on one, which is a numeric success, perhaps, or a professional success in sports or whatever that is. But those things are, not only do they not create fulfillment and they don't create happiness, but they're not sustainable.
That's really interesting. Something, I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but that did spark something. I'm not wrestling with something that I don't know if I believe in happiness. Okay. Happiness, we had Hank Christensen on a while back, and he said that happiness is like a currency. You can spend it, okay? And it fluctuates, but if you're focused on happiness, you're never going to find it.
Yeah, true. So in this Buddhist belief, they say that you are constantly changing. They talk about a light bulb really isn't a consistent light. It's a flashing light. It's that filament is flashing at such a high rate of speed that you don't see the difference. It looks consistent. We consider ourselves consistent beings. Their mantra is you can't get in the same river twice. If you get in the river, there's this piece of water around you. You get out of the river, that water is way downstream. Right. And such is life. We're in the flow of life. I'm changing all the time. I'm different than I was yesterday. I'm going to continue to grow and change. The itches that I would feel, the sensations that I would feel is proof in the Buddhist mindset that my body is continually changing on a cellular level. Oh. This is proof. We're always changing. It's always continuous changing, always changing. And so you can't ever look or settle on happiness. It's always coming and going. In fact, their goal between craving happiness, which is a craving, addiction to craving, or aversion, which is, I want to not be unhappy,
right?
Is there's a space between the stimulation of it. So like, let's say it's your birthday party and you're way excited and you're happy. There's a stimulation there. There's a distance they want you to create between you're the stimulation of the incident and the response.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what they're trying to create with you is a consciousness. If I feel that tickle on my nose, I don't immediately scratch it because it's just a stimulus. I just need to feel it, accept it. I think there's a spider laying eggs in my nose. It tickles so much, you know what I mean? Do nothing about it. It's just another stimulation. That stimulation then can be likened unto anger.
That's a very Stoic principle right there.
Yeah.
That's a direct
relation,
Yeah.
Which is something that I thought was interesting. The Buddhists and the Stoics, they have like a lot of things they say that are in common, which I've been studying the Stoics for a minute.
Right.
And I have really enjoyed their high level of self-awareness, their high level of responsibility. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen, but it's going to happen because of my best efforts, my best being in the right position, making myself the most worthy, prepared, whatever that looks like, right? And that language responds with me. They talk about your happiness. The Buddhists talk about your happiness is there's only one person in the world that can make you happy, and that is you. And that happiness has to be derived through you surrendering your immediate response or addiction to these things. I no longer have to crave in order to be happy. When I feel happiness, I feel it. Oh, that's nice. But I don't have to expect it, demand it all the time. It's impossible for my wife to always make me happy. In fact, it's impossible for her to ever make me happy. It's only up to me. And then when it happens and I have that wonderful experience, that connection with her, enjoy it, appreciate it, savor it, smell it, see it, taste it, all of the things, and then let it go. Don't expect that to happen tomorrow because she cannot and will not deliver. It's an impossibility. You follow me?
100%.
It's a crazy, like their thinking is so linear, the if, then what. It really made a lot of sense to me when I started to figure it out, but they don't tell you this. It's like the third day and I'm sitting there thinking, what the fudge am I doing here? In through the nostrils, out through the nostrils, in through the... I mean, that's how this dude's talking to you. And you're just like, if you tell me one more time, I swear to God.
So it was day 3 that you almost got in your first fight.
Yeah. Yes. It was day 3 before I started losing my shit. And I'm not kidding. I was springing so hard forward all the way to like, man, I feel really good. I'm feeling really amazing. I'm doing good at this too. I suck. This is the worst thing ever. I'm miserable. My back hurts. My knees hurt. What am I doing here? To, but this is really great, man. I'm learning so much stuff. I'm like, your brain is just kind of out of control because it's got nothing to anchor to. There's nothing for it to be like, let's think about that book you're reading about, or let's think about, no, it's just like all over the place. And you're just like, shh, buddy, just sit right here. Just be quiet. Infuriating.
And then your brain gets mad.
Then your brain,
you can't handle that.
temper tantrum. It's a full-on temper tantrum where I was angry and then I was just kind of hysterical. It was rough, dude. It was rough. I cheated and did write in my journal. I kept a very detailed log because my dude was on the other side of the curtain and I just would sneak my journal out and write. I wrote so much that I exhausted 3 pens.
Are you serious?
I wrote 3 pens out.
What?
Because it was so much, Toph. There was so much. And I couldn't talk to you. I couldn't talk to my dude that was right across the way. It was just like I was free-flowing consciousness. And I've looked at the pages of my writing and they're insane. It's crazy. Like I'm writing as fast as I can. And I'm having like these things that came up like this is day 3. Breakthrough, sort of. I had a moment of clarity and lost myself in the process. It was wonderful. And then it's like by the end of this entry, I'm like, and this place sucks.
Oh my gosh.
It's insane because you're kind of having a deconstruction. You're sitting with yourself. The reason that we have so much noise, and I may have already said this, the reason we have so much noise is so that we don't have to deal with ourselves. I struggle with depression most of my life. I don't want to step into a place of depression again. And so to defend myself from that and stay happy all the time, I listen to music, positive music and talks and all these different things. Whenever I have the chance to sit with it, it's terrifying. I don't ever want to go back into that space. Aversion. I'm running away from. I'm addicted to it.
Yeah.
And I had this 11 days of sitting with it, sitting with my own demons, my own garbage, and it was terrible and awesome. I really came to peace with it. One of the things that I came to peace with was that voice that comes into my mind: "Get out of bed, fat ass! Got to get to the gym." I'm so grateful for that guy. I'm so grateful for the critic that I've had in my life because my life is so good. I have a lot of amazing things in my life. I have a charity. I have a wonderful home. I've got businesses that support and take good care of me. All these things are from this guy being like, you better get to work, buddy. You better, come on, let's go, lazy. This mean critic. But the fact of the matter is in order for me to progress to the next level, I can't be driven by fear. You follow me?
Yeah.
I've got to be driven by compassion, authenticity, and love. Those are my tools. Those are the tools that I'm going to use to take my life, my family's life, and my businesses to the next level, which is happiness. I don't expect happiness, but I sure would like to invite him into my home a little more often.
Okay. All right. So, man, that's powerful stuff. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Okay.
So day 2, day 3, day 4. So where
was the big break off though? Where was the first
the crack? Day 4. Day 4. We started focusing on more than just our nose. We're focusing on the top of our head, the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And you just work your way down. Now it's your scalp. Now it's your face. And you spend just a few minutes just feeling your face and feeling your neck. And then feeling your shoulders. And I'm just like, damn, my shoulders are tight. And then it's because I'm sitting on the floor. Why am I sitting on the floor? And I thought my back was going to go out. I thought I started feeling my back spasm. It's only ever happened once in my life. And it was terrifying. I was stuck on the floor in my garage. Couldn't move.
Oh,
Terrifying. But I'd sat on my motorcycle for the past 9 days, in the same position, going across country. Awesome. And my back went out because it wasn't used to sitting in. So I thought it's going to happen again. I've been sitting the same way. It's going to happen again. So I flipped over and I was on my hands and knees, and the monk comes over and he's like, hey, Rob, are you okay? And I'm like, no, my back is going to go out. And he's all, okay. And I'm like, you can either get me a chair or I'm going to move back against the wall. And he's like, no, wait, we need to tell the teacher that you want to do that. And I'm like, no, I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, this is what's about to happen. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, if you don't get me a chair, I'm leaving. I'm going to go because my back is about to go out. And I truthfully don't know if my back was going to go out or if it was my mind and my body conspiring against me and my will. I could have been fine, but my body was just like, bro, I'm over it. And so he went and got me a chair. And then the teacher was looking like, what are you doing? And the monk's all shrugging his shoulders like, this guy was about to beat my ass if I didn't get him a chair. I sat in the chair. It was one of those Lifetime chairs, the plastic ones.
yeah.
They're pretty beefy.
Yeah.
Plastic chairs. They're not cheap, like flimsy little ones. I sat in that chair. It was luxurious.
Oh my gosh.
It felt so good. So I had this moment of like appreciation, like, oh, this is what it's about. Like I'm here to learn and appreciate all of these little things in my life. It was wonderful. This was like the most luxurious chair I'd ever sat in. It was so nice. And I sat in the back and I was just like happy, just like grinning and looking around. And then I had a moment of like, this is the lessons. Here are the lessons. The lessons are for me to start appreciating these simple things. And I loved that chair. But then after I was sitting in the chair, guess what? That chair started to hurt too. Those chairs aren't made for sitting in for 11 hours. Like the sides of how it's curved up. Like I'm a big fella. Like I put my legs over the edges. Those are digging into the bottoms of my hammies. And I could feel that. And so I'm doing this scan of my body, tip of my head to the tips of my toes. And I would like stop for a second and be like, ow, that really hurts. And then my knees would hurt from just sitting bent, just like the way that they were. So I'd straighten my leg out and they'd pop and distracting everybody, loud old man popping over there. Annoying, embarrassing. But it just like kept occurring to me that my body is like in full rebellion today. And then after that day, it like kind of all went away. Like all of that pain and everything went away. I still was sore and I still had that pressure, but was like getting good at being like, okay, all right.
So did they let you keep the chair or you had to go back?
No, they let me keep the chair. And then I also I brought my mat back there. So if I could sit on the floor in true meditation, I would. And then if it got to be too much and I couldn't just accept it, and I would get up and sit on the chair.
The only thing I can say to that is the body is not meant to be still like that for very long.
Right.
That's tough. It does have to move.
Oh yeah. It was hard. It was definitely hard to do that. And I agree with you. And I'm a pretty athletic guy. I have a stand-up desk at home. I don't sit down. I don't like to sit down for very long. I'm very animated. I love to connect. It occurred to me that some people are different than I am, but I gain energy through conversation and connection. It's like, it charges me up. It makes me feel good. It's like it's who I am.
Honestly, you're nothing if not a people person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And so there's a lot of the people that were in there meditating were not people persons. They were the ones that were like, when they had conversations, they were drained. They were the opposite of me. And so it was an interesting dynamic. The whole time I'm sitting in there, I was also realizing how judgmental I am. I was looking at these 26 other dudes and I was thinking about them, like their whole story. One guy wore like a Boston shirt, and that's the day I wore my Boston shirt. I'm like, I bet we could be friends. Like I had this whole stories about these people. I didn't have a sentence with them. I didn't have a word with them. And I had whole stories like, this guy over here should get a job. You know what I mean? What a bum, this dude wearing the same shirt 3 days in a row. And that's where my brain was, rather than focusing on breathing, scanning, feeling my elbows, feeling the tips of my fingers, feeling the tips of my toes. So I'm doing this practice. Days are going by now, and it's getting to be a little easier. I'm getting the flow. I'm in the schedule. Okay, now it's breakfast. Now we go down there. Now it's this. Now we come up, and now I sit and listen. I was really getting to the point where I appreciated the teacher who has passed away. His name was Gionka. He's passed away, but I really was appreciating his wisdom. Like at the end of the day, my favorite part of the day was his 1.5 hours of like instruction on Buddhism. And he would tell the stories about Buddha, and he would tell the stories about the different principles, the 5 principles of consciousness and the 4 principles of awareness and the 3 reasons people don't meditate. And like he was a very analytical mind, but the way he was like breaking it down for me, I'm like, I wished I could be taking notes. Like this is wisdom, like one golden nugget after another of why people don't meditate and what's the enemies to my meditation. And he like went down the list and I'm like, oh my God, that is exactly how I feel. Like that is what is going through my head right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Crazy cool, accurate wisdom.
Huh.
So good.
Did you ask to see if you could get that video?
I should ask, but the total time that I listened to Mr. Gionka was like 26 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Of learning about Vipassana, Buddhism, meditation, the spiritualism, the ever-changing mind and body. And they break it down to the cellular level, the atomic level of our bodies. Like, I'm not kidding. This isn't spiritual mumbo jumbo. This is like scientifically proven. And he would say stuff all the time where I'm like, that makes sense. I've always believed that. Like, I might be Buddhist outside the whole vegetarian meditation bit.
Well, and moving and all of that
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was wonderful in his trainings. But then there was periods of time where he would sing for like 20 minutes in Farsi and just terrible singing. It was like Barry White. He had this really deep voice and he's singing in another language. And he would do that at the end. Oh my God. Like I was just like, and I asked again, like, what are we doing? Like, this is a tremendous waste of time. If you want to edify me, give me material I can understand.
Sure.
And he's like, well, it's more than just a physical understanding and knowing, it's the experience. I was just like, oh my gosh. So the one time I went in and talked to the teacher, I went face to face with him. He sits up on a dais. He sits up on a coffee table almost in his like lotus position, you know? And you have to sit on a mat down on the floor. So you're kind of looking like directly at his belly button. And I had a real problem with that. I found out that authority and arbitrary rules are out. After these last 2 years.
Seriously?
Yeah. After these last 2 years, you don't tell me to wear a mask. You don't tell me to do anything unless there's some solid science and reasoning behind it.
Sure.
And I'll do it.
Yeah.
Don't touch this. You'll burn your hand. Gotcha.
Got it.
Yeah. I got it. This was a lot of arbitrariness. At the end, all of a sudden it started to make sense. I wish I would have adhered to the rules and wasn't such a rebel. But during the process, I'm like, that's dumb. Like the journaling. I wished perhaps I should have left that out. I don't regret my journal. I don't regret anything of it. My shaman, Kate Strong, who we've had on the show, she said, when you run a marathon, sometimes people walk, but they still finish the marathon.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my mantra through the whole time. Like, okay, man, I'm just walking, but I'm still here.
Yeah.
Still doing it. And then, so I made it through. But so he brings me in, and the one time I went and talked to him, when you are meditating and you don't have all this stimulation, you start to dream again. Like when you were a kid, I had dreams that were so crazy, vivid, Toph, unbelievably, like I would wake up and be like, I'm going to go to prison.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like I robbed that bank, like whatever, like just some crazy, vivid dreams. And I went to him, I'm like, dude, my mind is running amok. I think I'm going crazy. He's like, no, this is just your mind trying to regain control. As you exercise your will against your mind will rebel. This is how it goes. He's like, don't identify with the dreams. They're not who you are. Don't identify with the crazy thoughts. It's not who you are. It's your mind rebelling against your will. It was the very first time in my life, and I've been around a long time, that I've ever thought that my mind is not my ally.
Really?
Is that crazy?
That's wild.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, I got to ask one quick question.
Go.
Okay. If you were throwing a steak on top of all of that,
man.
do you think it would have gone different? Because what I'm trying to decipher is how much of it was your brain, and I do know you, how much of it was actually hangry?
That's a great question. I'm never going to know. I'm never going to know the answer to that question. And they would provide as much oatmeal as you could eat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but let's be honest.
I had 2 bowls max.
Max. And that's like the first day. Then the second day is like, oatmeal again? I think I'm going to try some Cheerios. And so you eat Cheerios. You can only eat so many Cheerios before, you know. And even with the vegetarian meals, which were delicious because I was starving, they were so good. Super high in fiber, though.
Oh, no.
If you know what I mean. Lack of activity, high fiber. It was like in this like mandatory group sittings. There was a lot of noise going on.
Throwing your breathing on top of that?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And people's bellies on the other side. There was a woman whose belly growled so loud the whole time. Every time. Like there was sometimes I'm like, who's talking over there?
Oh my God. Are
like
you serious?
not whispering talking, like a regular conversation. Like that sounded like someone was having a conversation on the other side of the meditation hall. Ooh, it was nuts. Anyway, I bet I was hitting like 1,500 calories, 1,400 calories.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Yeah, pretty tough. I snuck in some protein drinks.
Did you really?
Yeah, I totally snuck in a box of those. So I was getting 30 calories of protein at least a day. And I'd drink it and I'd have to walk out. They had a construction dumpster because if I threw it in my trash can, I'd get busted. They would know.
And then what though?
I don't know. It was like
the monk is going to come down. Did he have a stick?
No, I could have taken that punk.
How many times did you threaten to kick the monk's ass? That's what the audience really wants to know.
Twice.
Twice? Legit twice?
Legit twice.
Please go ahead and tell those stories.
So anyway, I cheated a little bit on the diet because I would sneak that protein drink. And it was one of the ones, the latte, the cafe latte ones with the caffeine. Oh. So I would hit my flat spot in the afternoon where I'm just like, I'm not even trying to meditate. I'm just trying to stay awake. I'm just trying not to fall over. I would drink one of those because it has a cup equal to a cup of coffee in it. Yeah. So I'd be good to go through my flat spot. So it was medicinal. That's all. Just medicinal. But I still lost 14 pounds. Like
14 pounds sitting.
Yeah. Sitting. We had to walk to the chow hall, which is about, I'd say, a quarter of a mile downhill, then uphill. So pretty aggressive hike coming back. But that's the only exercise I got. I would stretch in the morning to try to loosen up my back. That was it. That was the only exercise I was doing. No push-ups, sit-ups, no lifting, nothing.
Was that part of the program? Like no walking around, anything like that?
You can go on a walk, but it has to be subdued. There's no skipping, whistling, singing, humming. It's just like mindfulness in the walk. And then on the 4th day, they tell you that when you're scanning your body and you're actually not in the hall, that you're supposed to keep on scanning your body and focusing on your breath the whole time. When you're in the shower, when you're falling asleep, when you're walking. So you're mindfully meditating the whole time.
Man. Everything I know about you, I would think there'd be a track around this thing outside.
Yeah, I did walk the trails. Hard. Yeah, I did walk them quite a bit. Yeah. And so on the 8th day, it was in the morning, late morning. It was kind of getting into close to lunchtime. I started thinking I had a moment where I thought about my dog, Blue. I had to put Blue down this early spring. She bit my nephew in the face, and I just couldn't keep her around because I was worried she'd bite somebody else. And then I'm really like negligent for the first time, And so I had to put her down, and I had to make the decision. I had to be the man, the dad. I had to do that and put her down. I had to bury her. I buried her where I've buried other pets out in the desert there, special spot. And then I thought about my dog, Beasley. Beasley was like my spirit animal. That dog was my dog. You remember Beasley? Did you ever meet Beasley?
I never got a chance to meet Beasley.
She was like, she would wait. She knew somehow what time it was during the day, and she would wait by the door for me to come home, patiently just sitting, looking at the door for like 45 minutes. My wife would send me pictures of Beasley. Waiting.
Oh, that's cool.
It's cool, right? And
Yeah.
she would just, all she wanted to do was be with me. I didn't even have to scratch her ears or anything. Just was just like looking at me, loving me. That was my dog, Beasley. She had cancer and I had to put her down.
Oh, no.
So it was brutal. It was very hard, but you know, I'm the man. I had to make the decision. I was out in the desert by myself, burying my dog. And Blue, thank goodness my friend Aaron came and helped me with it because I was having to come apart on that one. Then I thought about my mom who passed away. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. I kind of was in charge of the estate, kind of putting things together, thinking about the conversations that I had with her at the end of her life and all of the things. And then when she passed away, all of the stuff that I had to do to move her, to get her transported and do all the things that come along with a funeral, you know, all the arrangements, I didn't really mourn. And then I thought about my dad who'd passed away before her. And I just like had this bubble. Like when I thought about my dad and me standing by his coffin and looking at him and being the responsible older sibling managing and not feeling my feelings, it just all came up, Toph. At the same time, I started crying and I could not stop. I got up and I walked out of the hall during the mandatory meditation. The monk jumps up right behind me. Hey, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I just need a minute. So I went up on one of the trails. There was a rock up there that was kind of flat. I took my Kleenex. I was up there just bawling my guts out, just crying. And then I'm crying because I was crying. Like, why am I crying so hard? This is nuts. Like, what the fudge is happening right now that I feel this, like all of this is just flowing out. And it wasn't just like tears running down my face. It was ugly crying. Like I was really bawling. And then I started crying because my friend Rob came up and we can't talk, but he set up his chair like 25 feet away and he sat there. And I thought about all my brothers who loved me. I could have got on the phone and I could have called you and you'd have been like, I'll be there in 2 hours, bro. Mm-hmm. You would have just said that. There would have been no, what's going on? What's happening? If I would have called and said, Toph,
get me out of here.
Come get me. I'm in lava. I'll drop my pin. You would have been like, I'm on my way. You would have made arrangements. Or if it couldn't have been you, you would have made arrangements to make it happen. I know that about you. And my boy, Rob, that was there. He sat there quietly. We couldn't talk, but his quiet companionship was there to know that he loved me. I felt so loved and supported. And I've got a lot of friends like that. I've got a lot. There's Jared, there's Aaron. I could make a list of my boys that would show up, no questions asked. You know what I mean? They would help me. So I felt so much gratitude and love. And then I felt gratitude for my life and how healthy I was. I'm 53 and I'm in great shape. You know, I'm as skinny as I've been since high school. Like I'm doing great. And the finances and like, I just had all these emotions, but I couldn't stop crying. Here I go. I'm crying again, just thinking about it. In the process, as I'm going through all these things, thinking about these things and just feeling my feelings for the first time in my life, I've never felt feelings of such deep, deep mourning and deep, deep gratitude and deep, deep love. All these feelings were coming all kind of at the same time, one after another, just kind of these waves of emotion. And I'd get my shit together and then I would be embarrassed that I was crying and I was crying about my crying and all this. It was nuts. And the priest comes up, the monk comes up and he's like, hey, the teacher would like to talk to you. And I'm like, just tell him no. When I'm by myself and I'm like doing this stuff, like just give me a second. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm going to be fine. Just give me my space. So he goes away. He comes back like it hadn't been that long. He comes back and he's like, the teacher is insisting that you come. And I'm like, tell him respectfully, please, that I decline. I respectfully decline. Thank you. And I sent him on his way. Here he comes back up the hill again. I swear to God, it was like, hadn't been more than 20 minutes. He comes back up the hill. The teacher's insisting that he sees you. And I'm like, you tell the teacher that he can fuck right off. Will you tell him that for me? And the monk, they don't use this kind of language. Yeah. He was just like, and I'm like, and if you come up here one more time, I'm going to beat your ass. I will beat you. Oh my God. You don't come up here again. I've told you, and now I'm telling you one more time, and physical violence will happen. And he was like, okay, Rob. And down the hill he went, and he didn't come back.
Did he come back? Oh my gosh. Sorry, I had your moment of pain there. Yeah. That's freaking hilarious.
Yeah. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking anymore. I'm telling you the truth. You got to believe me. And I think he did on that third time. And then the teacher called me in, having my problems, sitting down on my little mat below him. I stood there over him and he's like, you good? And I'm like, yeah, it was the weirdest thing. I told him I'm fearful to meditate again because I do not want to feel that again. And he's like, feeling it, taking that moment between the sensation And your response, this is what we're here for. This is what we're here for. Take a minute, sit with it, feel it. It's okay to feel it. He said, but don't identify with it. Don't be sad. Don't be depressed. Just feel the feeling and then move on. Just process it. It was the first time it really ever occurred to me that I have a choice.
Yeah.
We all have a choice in our emotions. We have a choice to react. And the time frame from stimulation to reaction is our choice. There's a split second in there that we have that we can make a good choice or a bad choice. And it was like the very first time where I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend some time with this. And I sat with it and I didn't go back into that space again. I had other feelings. I had other craziness bubble up. But in the feeling of my body, there's a book called Let Your Body Keep the Score, or The Body Keeps the Score.
Something like that.
There is traumas in our body that are just below the skin. And all we have to do is like spend some time feeling our body. Man, why is my back so tight? And I think that the feelings came up because I was actually conscious of my body. My body is such a good vessel. I have got the best tool that God could have given me. Here it sits, breathing without me even trying. My heart's pumping. I'm not even thinking about it. You know what I mean? All these things are happening. And I'm just existing. My body is doing such a great job, but it stores all these things. And man, just getting it out. So at the end of that experience, I was exhausted, Toph. I was just like,
that's the one that takes it out of you.
It kicked my ass.
Yeah.
I was exhausted. And he's like, you need to come to the other mandatory meditations. And I was just sitting in there, just like, oh my gosh. At 9:00 every night, when it was time for us to have open questions where we could go up and sit in front of the teacher and talk to him, I sprinted out of the room and I would be in bed before my roommate would even crack the door. I'm tearing my clothes off. I slept so good, better than I've slept in memory.
Really?
I was out. Like I slept like a baby. It was awesome. And I woke up in the morning and I felt so good. I felt so refreshed. There was literally like weight has been taken off of my shoulders. Like that process there was a literal transformation that happened in my spirit. And I felt fucking great. And then I'm like, am I nuts? I just went from like this to this peak of this mountain. Here I go. I'm bipolar. Like it is crazy, but I felt so seriously happy and refreshed. And I thought to myself, how long have I been packing this around since my dad's death, 15 years ago? Been packing it, carrying it. And I just let it all go. Wonderful. That's worth my money. I could go home now. I'm good to go on day 8.
Day 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have three more days going.
So the teacher called me in for a couple of other things. I was very disrespectful because of the arbitrary rules. I had a hard time with just submitting blindly to whatever it was. I wished I would have, because at the end, all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's why they had us do that. Oh, but they don't tell you up front. I wish there was like a disclaimer, like, listen, this all makes sense at the end. So just playful out, just cooperate.
Though, Rob, there's always one in every class. And I feel like more times than not that if you're in that class, it's you.
It's me. The teacher, I hated me. I'm pretty sure that John was just like, oh my gosh, this guy. And the monk.
Poor guy.
But I was hilarious. I would like write, I'd just write funny notes. Like there was a sign up for the showers where the guys that were intense had to get in the showers. And I would write like your mom, like at 11:30. Tell me that's not funny.
With the monk there.
With the monk right there.
The poor little guy's got to go over.
Erase it. I would write all kinds of funny things on that. People that were showing up to take showers. That was good. And then there was a notepad. And someone had wrote, they had found one of my earbuds on the trail. And they wrote, I found this earbud. And then I had the other earbud in my pocket. So I put it on the thing. And I wrote, where have you been all my life? Like he was talking to the other earbud. And then the other earbud was like, leave me alone. Like I had wrote this little script underneath there. Hilarious. So funny. And that was the other thing I realized, like in my mind, like I would think about like running in while everybody was meditating and slapping the floor and going, bang, the trend, bang.
Oh, yeah.
And slapping the floor and just having everybody crap their pants. And I would just sit back in the back and just giggle. But that's not meditating, is it?
No, not quite.
Not at all.
Not quite.
So I had my big come apart. I'm a little bit surly still against the monk. He came up to me. He's like, I don't think that you should be stretching. And I'm like, well, okay.
And then.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that with me. Stretching. And he's like, I'm going to have to talk to the teacher about it. I'm like, okay.
Good luck.
Yeah, go talk to him. And so he comes back. He's like, I talked to the teacher and he's okay with your stretching. And I'm like, okay. Like,
Glad we got that
Yeah.
taken care of.
I hope we all feel better because this is what's happening. Yeah, I had a hard time with that monk. He was just like stepping in at all the right times.
Well, it's kind of his job, right?
Yeah. So here's what happened on the last day. It's the last day. I'm so excited to go home. Craving going home. I'm going to get bacon on the way down. We're going to stop and get corn dogs. I'm going to eat some terrible meat. We're going to go home. I'm going to be home by 1 o'clock. I'm going to be in the pool with Zayaka by 2 o'clock. I'm going to have a wonderful time. Annie's going to be on the grill. She's going to make me steak. Nothing else. Just like a pound of it. Cooked perfectly. Seasoned perfectly. And I'm going to eat that meat and probably be sick. Yeah, that's my plan. I was so excited, Topher, that I woke up early. And 4 o'clock's already early. Have I told you this already, this story?
I'm glad just picturing this.
I woke up. I packed all my shit. I had it all ready to go. I just had I put my jammies away, got dressed, cleaned the room. You have to clean the room and make your bed and strip it down. I rolled up my sleeping bag. I took stuff down to the van, took it down there, packed it up, ready to go. When they gave the green light for everyone to go, I'm going to be in the van. There's not going to be like, okay, let's pack our stuff. I'm ready to go. I'm out.
Done.
I'm going to make a cup of noodles in that dude's van because I know he's got them in there. And I'm going to sit there while they're getting their shit together and I'm going to be ready. I go into the mess hall for breakfast because they were going to have breakfast on the last day. I look at the schedule and there's a whole nother day. I miscalculated my days.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a whole nother day of sitting quietly, focusing, breathing.
Oh my God.
So you know
Was
me.
that like a mental break at that point?
Yeah, I had like this, I can't do this another day. And I was so excited to go home. So I told the monk, this is the second time I threatened his life. I told the monk, get my phone. I'm leaving. Well, I have plans tonight. I'm going home. I'm out. And he's like, well, I'll have to talk to the teacher. I'm like, bro, I'm not asking you to get I'm telling you, you go get my phone or I'm going to beat your ass. I'm going to go down to that house. I'm going to dig through it, breaking and entering. You call the cops. Because jail.
That's a ride out of
jail is get out of here. That's for real. That's what I said to him. And he's like, what? And so the teacher would like to talk to you. He said, okay, Rob, and so I refused to get my stuff out of the van. My friend took his Sprinter van. It's a camper. Mm-hmm. I could have stayed in the van and it would have been an upgrade. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I could have slept on the ground. It would have been an upgrade. I am not sitting for another 11 hours. It's out of my imagining. He's like, just come to the first meditation, sit for a second. I sat there for a second and I had a moment of like, Rob, this is the deal. This is what you're here for. This is it. This is a stimulus for craving and you're reacting. Think about this for a second. Just take a second and think about it. And I had like my breathing. I focus on my breathing. My heart rate slowed down. Okay, I'm here for another day. It was actually the very best day of the whole 11 days. It was the best day because I really had like this exclamation point on the end of the sentence that made me be like, oh, this is a real life experience. This is really, really happening. This is my chance. And I exercised it and I was calm. It didn't put me sideways as it does. I can become emotional about something and it puts me sideways all day. I let it go. Like in 1 hour, I was like, okay. And the monk came up to me. He's like, hey, the teacher wants to talk to you. I'm like, tell him no, I'm good. He's like, no, the teacher's insisting that he needs to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. And I went and talked to him and the teacher's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I was mad because I wanted to go home. Craving. I said that, craving. And I said, and then I was embarrassed that I misfigured it in front of all the other guys. They saw me packing my shit. And I said, and I don't care what they think. It's irrelevant to my experience here. And so I need to go get my stuff out of the van and set up for tonight and make the best of today. And the teacher, John, like sat back like, it worked on my worst pupil, the worst one.
Huh.
So it was a great end to it. It was a great end. It was quite a lesson. And I'm glad I stayed. Annie wasn't expecting me home on Saturday. She wasn't expecting me. So if I'd have gone home, I'd have surprised her. She might have not even been home. She could have been out camping.
Steaks wouldn't have been there.
Yeah, it would have been a totally false craving. And so I stayed and then Sunday came up and I woke up again early. I packed up my things. I got ready to go and away we went. It was wonderful. So it was a terrific end. And the things that I learned about myself, about giving myself grace and loving myself, they talk in Buddhism about you can't love anybody else. You really, truly can't love anyone else until you love yourself. Stoic saying. That's straight from the books.
Stoics.
Hepatitis?
No, that's something else that you have to worry about in the cream and the.
Different. But that's one of his sayings is that you truly can't love others until you love yourself, and he talks about that in length. And so, like when I heard that, I was like, no, I believe that. But I learned that, and I kind of came to the fact that even with my darkest demons that I sat with, I'm a good dude. Like I'm good. I'm a good husband. I'm a good brother. I'm a good dad. I'm all the things that I want to be good at. Could I be better? Of course I could be better, but I'm an always changing organism that's always growing to either be better or not. And I'm always growing to be better. It's one of my themes in life. And that's what I need to focus on. I can't beat myself up over my past. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And even with all these bad experiences, on that day, that final day around 1 o'clock, they end noble silence. And so you can start talking to these people. I realized that all these people, even the ones that sat perfectly still, they had their own problems. They had their own struggles. Like my life is so good, comparatively speaking. A lot of these guys are going through like crises. They're in a divorce. They're in like a major life change. And there I was just struggling with my own values, worthiness, guilt, fear, shame, all these things that I struggle with. Totally me. Had nothing to do with them. I had all these stories around them. Most of them were really very nice guys. And my imagining, fantasizing about fighting them, just nonsense.
Yeah.
Like I honestly thought this is how I would take that guy down. And I would spend time thinking about it. Neck punch, this and that.
Sure.
Quite violent. And my writing in my journal became much more steady. I was more focused on the goal, the end of the marathon, rather than the day-to-day left, right. So it was an interesting process to go through. I would never, ever want to take it back. Like I'm grateful that I did it, but I'm never going again.
Yeah.
Lesson learned. I would suggest it to you if you're sick of thinking about what you're thinking about. If you're addicted to scrolling, drama, craving, or addiction, any of those things, like it really helped with a lot of my addiction because my addictive personality was craving.
Yeah.
Addicted to craving. It's just another stimulation. Just interesting. Here it comes and there it goes. Just like an itch on my nose. Here it comes and there it goes. Nothing is permanent.
That is some powerful lessons that you got there.
Pretty cool, right?
No, it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what sitting there for that long, it would have to be something to experience to even understand it.
Yeah. And they say that a lot of times that the ideas, the theories that we're sharing are common knowledge. Everybody believes that we're kind of out of control. Everybody knows that we need to be calm and centered, but like experiential, a totally different understanding.
Well, go ahead.
The last thing that I want to say is if you're going to do something like that, find a coach or mentor to step into it with. Spend some time preparing for it. Spend some time sitting every day for at least an hour and focusing on just your breath, the in and the out. Take some time and practice and be prepared for it, because I was not. The sitting is actually a physically demanding practice.
Yeah.
It's not just sitting. It's hard. And so that's why I would spend some time in that space.
Train to get there is what you're saying.
Yeah. Practice sitting down. Yeah.
Practice sitting down.
And sitting quietly. And even if you do it with a meditation that's on the phone, you don't sit like in total silence. You're still sitting. You're still being present. It'd be worth your time to ramp up to about an hour a day.
Well, truly, Rob, thank you so much for coming on and sharing that. That is one heck of an experience.
Yeah. I'm glad I could share it with you. I'm grateful for that, for this platform that I could speak my heart and be authentic about it. And I hope that others can take from this what they will. But more than anything, I want people to realize or know this one thing, and that is that our lives we're tremendously blessed, and that we create our own misery. And if you feel miserable, do something about it. Sit with that. Think about that. Get some help. There's no reason to continue to live in your insanity.
Well, and most of the time that's in our own head.
Almost always. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really and truly, thank you.
Yeah.
And you are one of my absolute favorite people, and I think nothing but the world of you. So thank you.
Thanks, Tove.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you gained some knowledge. There was a ton of golden nuggets in there. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm sure we'll touch on more subjects in the future. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Rob, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.